I still remember the way her eyes twitched when I said the name. We were in the hospital room, still dizzy from the euphoria of labor, when my husband and I introduced our newborn daughter to the family. The room was warm with flowers, balloons, and the smell of new life. I held our baby girl in my arms, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, her name embroidered on the edge, Alara June, a name that meant everything to us, my late mother's middle name, and a celestial name we both loved since college. There were a few soft gasps. My mother-in-law welled up with tears. My brother-in-law gave us a proud nod. And then there was Clara, my sister-in-law. She froze. Her smile faltered just for a second, like a mask slipping. She blinked quickly and tilted her head with a practiced expression of delight. "Alara?" she asked, forcing a chuckle. "That's unique." I remember the way she lingered at the foot of the bed, her eyes scanning the blanket, then darting to my face. "Where'd you get that name from?" I explained with love how Alara was one of Jupiter's moons and June was for my mother. I didn't expect a warm response from Clara, but I didn't expect silence either. She just nodded, lips pressed thin. It wasn't until a week later, when she called my husband out of the blue, that I realized something was brewing, something deeply wrong. At the time, I was too wrapped up in sleepless nights and baby snuggles to pay attention. I had no idea that this name, the one we whispered for months before she was born, would become the centerpiece of a strange, petty war I never saw coming. But I see it now. My name is Lena Martinez. I'm 31 years old, and if motherhood has taught me anything, it's this. Never let anyone guilt you out of your joy, especially when that joy is hard-won. Because sometimes protecting your peace means being strategic, and sometimes it means making sure your baby's name stays hers. It started with a phone call. My husband's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was changing Alara's diaper, and when I glanced at the screen, I saw Clara's name. I didn't think anything of it. She hadn't really reached out much since the hospital, which I chalked up to new mom awkwardness or whatever silent competition she was nursing. But when my husband returned and took the call in the backyard, pacing, nodding, occasionally rubbing the back of his neck, I knew something was off. When he came back in, I asked what was going on. He hesitated, then mumbled, "Clara's upset about the baby's name." I blinked. "What?" He didn't meet my eyes. She said she'd always planned to name her future daughter Alara, like for years, and now that we used it, she feels blindsided. I laughed. I actually laughed. She doesn't even have kids. He shrugged, defensive now. Apparently, she told me once, like years ago, in college or something. "Oh, well," I said flatly. "She didn't trademark it." But Clara wasn't done. 2 days later, she texted me directly. It was long, rambling, dramatic. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but Alara has always been my name. I had it picked out since high school. I even told Alec about it. I feel like something sacred was taken from me." I stared at the message in disbelief. She was acting like I'd committed emotional theft, like I'd robbed her of a future she hadn't even lived yet. I didn't respond right away. I was too stunned. Then came the group chat ambush. Clara dropped a message in the extended family WhatsApp group, not subtly directed at me. So sad when people disregard others' dreams. I guess some people don't value family. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about a name. It was about control. She wanted to stake a claim on our child, on something she felt entitled to, simply because she called dibs, and somehow everyone else was letting her feel that way. My husband tried to play peacemaker. "Maybe we can tweak it," he suggested one night. "Add a second middle name or call her something different casually." I stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Are you seriously asking me to rename our daughter because your sister is emotionally fragile?" That was the night we argued, not just about Clara, but about boundaries, about whose feelings came first, about whether our daughter's identity could be negotiated to keep the peace. I went to bed with Alara curled beside me and rage buzzing under my skin. That was the night I decided I wasn't giving up her name. But I would give Clara something else entirely. A performance. The first real betrayal didn't come from Clara, it came from my husband. I caught him one night texting her, whispering in the hallway like a teenager sneaking out. When I asked what he was doing, he said, trying to smooth things over. But what he was really doing was negotiating, not with me, but with her. He had told Clara that we were open to ideas, that we might consider alternatives if it made her feel better. He was dangling the idea that maybe, just maybe, we'd cave, that her emotional tantrum was working, and suddenly, I didn't recognize him. I reminded him fiercely that Alara was already here. Her name was on her birth certificate, on her clothes, on the wall in handcrafted wooden letters. We'd chosen it together, whispered it in bed at night while I was pregnant, practiced saying it to make sure it rolled off our tongues like music. She's 1 week old, I said coldly, and already you're trying to sell her out to keep your sister calm? He said nothing. That silence, that cowardly, exhausted silence, cut deeper than anything Clara could have done. But that was when I started remembering things. Moments that hadn't made sense before but now snapped into place like puzzle pieces soaked in vinegar. Clara had asked a lot of questions during my pregnancy, about names we liked, about my mom's middle name. She'd even made a joke during my baby shower saying, "Just don't take my dream name." I thought she was just being dramatic, as usual, but now I saw it differently. She'd been fishing, laying traps, and I had walked right into them, wide-eyed and vulnerable. She hadn't forgotten I loved the name Alara. She had waited for me to confirm it. And when I did, she sprang the trap, playing the victim, accusing me of emotional theft, and getting my own husband tangled in her guilt web. Still, I said nothing publicly. I smiled at family dinners. I posted adorable baby photos with sweet captions. I let her believe that I was absorbing her disapproval and wearing it like a shawl. But inside, I was plotting. One night, while nursing Alara, I stared at the handmade letters on her nursery wall. That name was ours, and no one was going to take it from her. So I talked to my best friend who works in interior design. Together, we ordered a new set of nursery decals, fake ones, a different name, a decoy, something flowery, trendy, totally not us. We staged it perfectly for a family visit a few weeks later. Clara came by to drop off gifts. She peeked into the nursery. "Oh," she said, stopping mid-step. "You changed her name?" I shrugged, casual. "Yeah, just didn't feel like Alara fit anymore. We're going with Sienna now." She lit up like a chandelier. She left smiling that day, and I knew what she'd do next before she even did it. Within a week, she posted on Instagram, "Welcome to the world, baby Sienna." Even though she was barely 12 weeks pregnant and hadn't even revealed the gender, she stole it, hook, line, and sinker, and she thought she'd won. After Clara announced her baby's name, Sienna Grace, on Instagram, I stared at the screen in silence. There it was, the victory she thought she'd won. A pastel collage of ultrasound photos, a fake white crib, and that smug caption, "Sienna Grace, the name I've dreamed of for years." I felt my stomach turn, not out of hurt, but out of awe. Awe at how bold she was, how deluded, how certain she was that she had outplayed me. I didn't say a word, not to her, not on the group chat, not even to my husband. I just waited. For months, I waited. I posted photos of Alara in soft focus, never tagging her name, never showing the nursery. I let the illusion linger, let Clara live inside her fantasy where she won. The baby name war became a family Cold War. My husband tiptoed around it, clearly hoping we'd just all forget. Clara started sending pregnancy updates, pictures of her baby bump, of pink blankets, of embroidered Sienna onesies. She even had the nerve to text me and say, "I'm glad you changed the name. Sienna suits your daughter, but I always knew it was meant for mine." I almost laughed out loud. She truly believed it. By now, I had completed the real nursery. The letters ELARA stretched across the wall in golden cursive, glowing with soft lights. My best friend had helped design the room to feel like a sky full of stars, a nod to her name's celestial roots. But we kept it all under wraps. Until the christening, we didn't tell anyone what name would be on the church documents. We kept the invitation simple: join us for the christening of our daughter. No monogrammed party favors, no nursery photos, just soft suspense and polite distance. Clara showed up in a floral dress, already glowing with pride. She was 6 months pregnant by then, and she walked into the church like a queen. She brought a custom-made gift with sienna etched into silver. Her smugness filled the pews before the choir even sang. The moment came during the priest's blessing. He held our daughter gently and asked, "What is the name you give this child?" My husband looked at me. I smiled. "Alara June Martinez." Gasps. Clara's face dropped. Her smile faltered so quickly it looked like a glitch in the matrix. She blinked. Once, twice. I heard her whisper to her husband. They said Sienna. The rest of the ceremony passed like a dream, a beautiful, celestial dream. Afterwards, the family gathered for photos. Clara barely spoke. Her husband looked confused. My mother-in-law just kept nodding, as if trying to stay out of whatever storm she knew was coming. Later that night, I got a message from Clara. "You lied to me." I responded, "Number you assumed, and I let you." She didn't reply, but she deleted the Instagram post the next morning. That was the last time she mentioned baby names to me. The days after the christening were quiet, unnaturally so. Clara didn't text, didn't call, didn't post a single bump update for over a week. In our family group chat, she was silent, as if licking invisible wounds, but I wasn't celebrating. Not yet, because the revenge wasn't just in reclaiming the name, it was in the exposure, in lifting the veil off a manipulator who had always worn the mask of the wounded, misunderstood artist of the family. And now, for once, everyone saw what I'd seen all along. It started with whispers. My cousin texted me, "Wait, didn't Clara say Sienna was her name first?" My aunt chimed in at brunch. She looked shocked at the christening. Did she think the baby's name was Sienna? The subtle hum of confusion turned into conversations, quiet ones, but layered with realization. People started connecting dots, not just about the name, but about Clara's habit of drama, of spinning stories to fit her narrative. But the real turning point came during my father-in-law's birthday dinner. Clara walked in late, holding her belly like a trophy, and took her usual spot beside my husband. Her eyes barely met mine, and I offered nothing but a pleasant smile. The tension at the table was thick. At some point, she let out a forced laugh and said, "Well, I guess I should thank you, Lena. If you hadn't let go of Sienna, I wouldn't have gotten to use it." The table went still. All forks paused midair. I set my glass down gently. "Let go?" I asked, tone level. "I never did. We just let you believe we did." Clara's cheeks flushed instantly. My husband stiffened beside me. "What?" she snapped, her voice climbing a note higher. "We never changed her name," I said calmly. "We just stopped correcting your assumptions. It seemed easier." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked around the table, expecting someone, anyone, to jump to her defense. No one did. My husband finally spoke, his voice heavy. "Clara, I tried to talk to you about it, remember? But you wouldn't listen. You acted like Lena did it on purpose. She didn't." Clara looked betrayed, and for a moment I did feel a flicker of guilt. But then I remembered the manipulation, the public shaming, the guilt trips, and I let the guilt pass like a cloud. She left early that night. I overheard her mother trying to console her in the driveway, whispering something about stress and hormones, but I wasn't concerned anymore. The truth had been unwrapped and laid bare, without screaming, without confrontation, just the kind of revenge I liked best: quiet, patient, devastating. After that dinner, Clara's energy shifted. She stopped trying to center herself in our narrative. She gave birth 3 months later and did name her daughter Sienna, but the shine was gone. No dramatic posts, no lavish name reveal, just a muted announcement with a single photo. And I finally felt peace. Alara was growing into her name, into herself. She giggled at the golden letters on her wall. She looked up at the stars in her ceiling nightlight, completely unaware of the silent war waged over her identity. But that's how legacy works. You protect it quietly, fiercely, strategically. Life eventually settled, as it tends to do after a storm has passed. Clara stayed distant, not hostile, not exactly cold, just distant. Family events became quieter. There were fewer pointed comments, fewer passive-aggressive texts. It was as if she'd burned herself out, trying to control something that was never hers. My husband apologized one night, months later. We were sitting on the porch while Alara napped inside, and he said, "I should have protected that name with you. I should have protected you." I didn't say anything right away. I just reached for his hand. Sometimes healing isn't in dramatic words, it's in changed behavior. And he'd changed. He stopped running interference for his sister. He stopped asking me to compromise my peace for someone else's comfort. Alara turned 1 last month. Her birthday was quiet, just a few friends and family in our backyard. She toddled around in a silver dress, the sky above full of tiny string lights. In the middle of her cake smash, she pointed at the stars and giggled, just like she always does. Clara didn't come. She sent a gift, though. A simple card with no name, no message, just happy birthday. And that was enough. Some wounds never fully heal, but they stop bleeding eventually, and some victories don't need an audience. They just need to last. I started writing again in the evenings, journaling mostly, trying to make sense of how quickly love can shift into defense. I was surprised how much of the tension had sunk deep into my skin, even after it was over. It wasn't about Clara anymore. It was about what I had let happen, what I had ignored, and what I would never allow again. Motherhood taught me how to soften, yes, but more importantly, it taught me how to guard, not out of fear, but out of clarity, out of purpose. Protecting Alara's name was never just about syllables or signatures. It was about identity, about legacy, about deciding in that quiet nursery that no one else would write her story but us. And with every milestone, her first word, her wobbly steps, her sleepy little hand curled around my finger, I felt the strength of that decision anchor itself deeper. Our family dynamic shifted too. Not loudly, just gradually. My husband's mother began visiting more often, asking questions about my perspective. Clara's brother stopped making excuses for her, and when Clara did show up, twice in the span of a year, she came with a new tone. Not quite humility, but absence of ego. She never mentioned the name again, neither did I, but I noticed she'd stopped calling her daughter Sienna on social media. Just baby girl. Just my light. As if the name had lost its sparkle now that it wasn't stolen property. That told me everything. One afternoon, I was in Alara's room rearranging her bookshelf when I noticed she had rearranged the stars on her glow-in-the-dark wall stickers, a whole new constellation clustered just above the golden letters of her name. She made her own sky, I whispered, and it hit me. This whole journey, with its pain and silence and strategy, had really been about that. Letting her have her own sky, her own space, her own name, unshared, uncompromised. I used to think the best way to keep peace in a family was to stay quiet, to give in a little, to keep things smooth, even when they felt wrong. But now I know better. Peace without respect is just performance. So, no, I didn't scream. I didn't fight in front of the whole family. I didn't stoop to her tactics. I just waited. I planned. And then I reminded her, with perfect timing, that my daughter's name was never hers to steal. My name is Lena Martinez. I'm 31 years old, and if there's one thing I'll never do again, it's apologize for setting boundaries that protect the people I love, even if I have to do it silently, strategically, and with a smile. If you've ever had to defend your peace from family drama, tell me your story in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories of quiet revenge and powerful reinvention.